Hey there, this is Gaurav. Welcome back with another video. Today I'm very excited because I'll be talking about a very special concept that we have in JavaScript called Temporal Dead Zone. It is a very special interview question as well. I have seen many of us are not having good clarity like what is Temporal Dead Zone. They might be giving you the definition from Google, but they don't know what is exactly happening behind the scene. So this is why in this video I'll be giving you that clarity. Let's understand what is Temporal Dead Zone step by step. So without wasting any further time, let's jump right in. So now, in order to understand the concept of Temporal Dead Zone, first you have to know what are the different ways we can create a variable in JavaScript. So we have different keywords through which we can create a variable. Like we can create a variable using let's say a var. Okay, we can create a variable, let's say let. Okay, we can also create a variable, let's say const. These are the different way of creating variable. So now this let and const we have after ES6. Okay, and before ES6 we have this var. So now in order to understand the concept like what is Temporal Dead Zone, you have to first understand what is the difference between them. I mean, how the variable is basically getting created behind the scene if you are using let, and what happens if you are using var. So first you have to understand that comparison. So there are other comparison as well, like for var we have different scope like function scoped, for let and const we have block scoped, but here I'm only talking about one specific context, and that is called hoisting, variable hoisting. So in JavaScript we have that concept. So let's understand that concept first, then we will see what is Temporal Dead Zone. Okay, so let's understand hoisting in JavaScript. So we have to understand first how JavaScript is basically running behind the scene. I will create a separate dedicated video soon, but in this video I will only talk about hoisting concept. So behind the scene there are two phases where JavaScript is basically running. One is called creation phase, another one is called execution phase. Creation phase is where my execution context will be created, or you can say execution context object will be created. Now execution context we can consider it as an environment that where my code, my variable, everything will stay there. Okay, you can consider like a container where I have my variable, my code, it will be there. Okay, that will be happening in creation phase. Once that is done, means the context execution context object is created, then the code will be running line by line. That will be done in execution phase. So now here we are worried about the execution context, which is creating in the creation phase. Now execution context has actually three properties. One is called variable object, another one is called scope chain, another one is called this keyword. Okay, but in this video I will only talk about variable object because we are only talking about Temporal Dead Zone, right? I will create a dedicated video there. I will cover all of this. So now let's understand what is variable object. It is a part of, you can say, property of execution context. Now in variable object what happened, your code will be scanned for variable declaration. So wherever you have declared a variable, okay, the name of that variable will be added as a property in variable object, and it will be set to undefined. This is a very important line. Again I'm repeating. So what happening in a variable object, let's say you have mentioned some variable var name, right? So all the name like name that will be created as a property in variable object, and the value of that property like name will be set to undefined, and this will happen in creation phase before execution phase. Okay, and this is what called hoisting. This is what called variable hoisting. I will show you just in few minutes, but the same way the function also will be hoisted here, but here I'll only talk about variable object. So now what happened, let's say you consider this one as my execution context. Okay, as I mentioned, execution context is nothing but an environment container where I have my code, variable, everything will be there, the scope. So here let's say I have my variable object, it's one property, then I have scope chain, and I have this variable. These three are the properties that lies under execution context. And inside variable object, what happened in creation phase, it will scan your code and it will find the variable declaration and it will add as a property to the variable object and it will set as undefined. I hope it is clear now. So let's see the hoisting concept for var keyword. Here I'm talking about only var keyword. Okay, so let's say here I have some code. So let's say here I have defined and declared few variable like var name, John, age and city. Okay, now what happened in variable object, here I have variable object. So what happened in creation phase, my code will be scanned and it will check like, okay, so I have three variable here, that is name, age and city. So then what happened, this will be vested and this will be available in the variable object in creation phase before execution phase, and the value would be set as undefined. I hope it is now clear, right? So now if I see you the execution context, this is my execution context. Okay, like here I have the variable object. Now here I already have name, age, city. These are the variable name, right? Here it is already added as a property and the value is undefined. And these all are happening before execution phase in creation phase. Okay, and now this thing is accessible. Actually we can access it. So if we are trying to print or console name, age, or city, then we will be getting undefined. We will not get any error because it is accessible. Okay, and by default if you are having it in global scope, then it will be my global execution context object. So you can see it in window object, which is nothing but the global execution context. Okay, this is what happening for var keyword. Let me show you first in code and then again I will come back here. So now let me show you the variable vesting for var keyword. Here you can go inspect, just go source and snippets. That's it. We have created one index.js file and this is where I will write my code. Let's say I have created one object, let's say what it be, let's say age here as 22. Okay, and I'm trying to console it. Now definitely we are supposed to get 22 as a result, right? That we already know. But what happened if I try to do it before it? I mean before variable declaration and assignment we are trying to access it, right? That's what we're trying. Now if I try to do it, let's see what happened if we are using var keyword while declaring variable. So I just put a debugger here and let me just run it. See, right now it is in execution mode. That means creation phase already happened. So we should have variable object and execution context. So at this point, as it is in execution phase, so in creation phase already we have our execution context, global execution context, which is a window object. So here we should have age, this variable as a property, and the value should be undefined. I mean it should be vested in my global execution context. Here you can see, here I can see age, right? Here I can see age is already available in my global execution context, which is a window object, and the value is undefined. So here we can prove that in creation phase my variable is already vested and it is added as a property. So here if I try to run use it, let's say I'm using window.age, I'll be able to access it, though I don't have any value here. So let's go one step further. Okay, so now again here we are declaring it, assigning some value in it, and here you can see my age is now having 22. So if I try to do the same, we'll be getting 22. Okay, so it means that for var keyword, if we are having var keyword, in that case the variable is vested in creation phase. Okay, it is set to undefined and we can access it before declaring it. So now what happen if we have let or const here instead of var? Can you do this? That we will check, I mean whether the variable is vested or not. But before that, let me show you a few theory around it, then I will come here and I'll show you for let and const. Okay, let me show you now what happened for let and const keyword. So in let and const, let's say here I'm having name, age and city. Okay, I'm using now let and const, I'm not using var here. Now again my variable object here, you can see again it will scan my code and it will find that I have three variable name, age and city. It will be added as a property in variable object and it will set as undefined. The value would be undefined. It will be part of variable object as a property, right? The same thing is happening here as well. But here is the thing that you have to understand. So again it is my execution context object, let's say, and here I have scope chain, this variable and all. But here is where the thing is happening. So here I have name, age and city, let's say, okay, which is undefined. But right now the problem is it is not accessible. It is there, I mean it is vested, but it is not accessible at all. That is what I will show you just in a few minutes. So I have seen in interview, if I ask this to anyone, they say like for let and const the variable is not vested. Actually it is not true. I can see it is vested, but it is not accessible. The scope is different. It is called script. It is no more global now, no more window object now. I will show you. So now what happens if we have both type of variable here, like I have let, var and const. The same way it will be, vested to my variable object, will be added as a property. And here in execution context, we have two different area. You can see one I am showing in black, another one in a different color. One would be not accessible. This one would be not accessible because we have declared it through let and const. Another would be accessible because we have declared it with var, and we have seen it, right? Before declaring it, we can access it because in creation phase it is already vested and it is added in window object. But the scope would be different here. This would be part of global window object, but this would be part of script. I will show you the script in the browser. Okay, so now the question is like, what is temporal dead zone in that case? Okay, so now say instead of var, let's say we have here let, and let's say here we have city. You can give anything you want, and you can give let's say Kolkata. That's where I am right now. Okay, so if I try to print city the same way, before assigning a value to it, you can say, or declaring it, or after it, let's see what happened. So let me save it and put a breakpoint over here. Okay, so now if I run it, okay, so right now I am again in execution phase. The creation phase already done. Then we should have variable object, we have global execution context, but the city we have declared with let. Okay, that's why it is vested. You can see it is now no more part of global, but it is part of script. So here in the scope we have global and script. So now it is coming under script and the value is undefined. It means the city is vested with the value undefined, but it is not part of window object right now. It is part of script. It is something you can say where we cannot access it till the time we declare or we assign a value in it. Till the time we cannot access it. So if I go here, we'll be getting an error that is saying city is not defined. Okay, so this is kind of restriction that they have provided just to follow the best practice, because as a best practice we should not access a variable before declaring it, right, or before assigning. Okay, if I let's say have another variable, let's say I am having x. Okay, so in this case also the same thing will happen. Like you can see x is undefined. Okay, and if I just go one step, it will give me error. So temporal dead zone here, it means if a variable created by let or const, then even though in creation phase that variable is vested and have value undefined, but still we cannot access it until and unless we have declared it or we have assigned some value in it. So the same thing is happening for const actually. So if I have const here, but in case of const we have little bit more strict over let, that we have to assign some value in it. So here if I write, let's say y equal to 1, and here if I try to put y, and let me just uncomment it. Here also I can show you that it will be part of the script. So if I try to run it, See, here it is coming here. It is not part of window object. We cannot access y using window object. That is why till the time we declare it or assign value in it, we cannot access y even though it is available in creation phase. That is called temporal dead zone. And why it is a best practice? Because definitely you should not access a variable before declaring it, right? That's why they put some restriction on it. So in case of var we can do it because it is part of global. In case of let we cannot do it, but in case of const we have to assign value in it. A little bit more strict. So that's all about this video. I hope you got the idea of temporal dead zone, like what zone we are talking about here. And thanks for watching. If you have any doubt anywhere in this video, let me know in the comment section. For more video you can follow my channel. See you on the next video. Thanks for watching. Take care. Tata. Bye bye.